going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. October's over, which means it's time to rank all the new releases I saw this month from worst to best. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your favorite movies were in October, as well as your least favorite. As always, this is just my list and not a definitive ranking. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these videos, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content like reviews and rankings on a near daily basis. So just as a reminder, I have not seen every single movie that I wanted to see this month, especially as I've been playing catch up and I've also just been really busy. I only got around to 17 new movies, some of which I still don't even have full reviews up for on the channel yet, which I know is a pretty low number for me. If you've been following these lists for quite a bit, you'll know I usually get around to about 30 movies or so, but I just couldn't do it this month. Though similar to previous months, some of these will be movies that were actually released in October, and some of them were 2021 releases but were from earlier in the year and I'm only just getting around to them now. And for the movies that I don't have videos for yet, I do have reviews written for them, so expect to see them scattered throughout the rest of the year where time permits. But let's not waste any more time, and let's jump into the list. In last place is The Addams Family 2. The worst film adaptation of these classic beloved characters is so hell-bent on modernizing them that it completely forgets everything that made these characters endearing or charming to begin with. It totally wastes the talents of a fantastic voice cast, including great additions like Wallace Shawn and Bill Hader, and it instead dedicates 90 minutes to the Addams squabbling and bickering, with just some forced pop culture references thrown in there. It's an ultimately grating experience, and I just hope that the next iteration of these characters will mark a major improvement over this. At number 16 is Antlers, and as a point of reference, there is a huge gap between Addams Family 2 and this movie. These next few I all thought were just okay or thought were good, but I would still say just proceed with caution. This is the long-awaited creature feature from Scott Cooper that wasn't quite worth the wait, unfortunately. Now, while it did contain some promising ideas and offered some solid direction from Cooper, and it had compelling lead performances, its tone is a bit too serious for its own good, and it also failed to capitalize on any of the ideas it brought up, in particular the vast lore surrounding the creature terrorizing the town. While it has enough entertaining moments to get you by, it's ultimately uneven and a half-baked experience. At number 15 is Bergman Island, a serene, reflective ode to the filmmaking process that also manages to use its very niche setting to touch upon themes such as finding meaning in your life and having a sense of purpose. It's a very quiet film, albeit one that can feel too quiet, as its reliance on atmosphere can make it feel like it moves at too slow of a pace, especially at the beginning. But it's gorgeously shot and wonderfully acted, with Vicky Krieps and Mia Wasikowska being two of the major standouts. I'd say the only other big thing is it has a major shift in focus in the second act that tells another story which on its own isn't bad, but will feel like it'll seriously disrupt the already slow pacing, so it may add to people feeling a bit put off by it. At number 14 is The Many Saints of Newark, the prequel movie to The Sopranos that honestly didn't do too much to add to The Sopranos lore. While the casting of the younger versions of the returning characters was spot on, it didn't feel like the film was truly building towards anything meaningful or specific, giving us little to no insights into what makes any of these characters tick. And I say that both in relation to The Sopranos and just on its own. It felt like a day-in-the-life generic mob movie, with the only exception being Leslie Odom Jr.'s storyline, which was easily the best in the film. Now, I don't dislike this movie. It's not bad, but the reason I was okay with it was mainly due to the solid performances by the cast, and not because of the writing. It felt very inconsequential, and while it's decent enough, it probably should have been a miniseries instead, so we could have had more time to explore everything. At number 13 is Ron's Gone Wrong, a cute family-friendly film that certainly doesn't reinvent the wheel in terms of story structure, but it makes up for its familiar elements with a sense of humor, charm, and warmth. While it will admittedly get compared a lot to earlier this year's The Mitchells vs. the Machines due to the way in which technology is emphasized, this does have a personality of its own, although it's one that plays things considerably safer. While I think it could have done more in terms of story structure, it still offers a little something for all audiences. At number 12 is Halloween Kills, and everything from here on out I'd give about a 7 out of 10 or higher. The direct sequel to Halloween 2018 is unfortunately a step down from that move, though it's one that I don't think is necessarily bad, as it delivers on the thing a lot of people come to see, which is Michael Myers on an absolute rampage. This increases the amount of carnage Michael caused from the last film, and it is gruesome. Sometimes maybe a bit too gruesome, but nonetheless, it's very creative creative in that department. Where it unfortunately stumbles hard is the poorly written dialogue and hammy acting from normally reliable actors, along with several moments that stretch the suspension of disbelief. So, while it had moments I found frustrating, it entertained me way more than it frustrated me due to this heightened tone that it established from early on, and made some of the more melodramatic moments feel unintentionally campy. So, I found some of its faults a bit forgivable because of that, though I do get why people weren't big fans of it. At number 11 is The Guilty. The American remake of the 2018 Danish film of the same name is actually pretty solid, and between the two movies by Antoine Fuqua that we got this year, this is by far the better one, after the painful Infinite over the summer. The main reason this works as well as it does is due to Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, as he carries a lot of weight and nuance as someone battling plenty of personal demons that tie into both real-world issues, as well as this plot of a woman being kidnapped. While even at 90 minutes, it does have some pacing issues, as we never once leave Gyllenhaal's side, and most of the actors are only heard over the phone, it's still a fast-paced little thriller that should offer some nice entertainment. At number 10 is Censor, a bold, ambitious independent horror movie that acts as something of a tribute to 80s horror, in particular the films of David Cronenberg. Taking place in the 80s itself, it combines the aesthetics of contemporary horror films as well as those of low-budget exploitation films, especially utilizing these visuals during these unnerving nightmare sequences. Though unlike a lot of other films centered around characters experiencing visions, this one felt refreshingly original and creative. Now, I wasn't quite totally on board with its third act, which I felt was done more for shock value than anything, but I didn't hate it, and I do think this film has plenty to offer. It's definitely something to check out if you're looking for a different sort of horror movie. At number 9 is Zola. A24 summer comedy based on the viral Twitter thread isn't quite as wild of a ride as I thought it was going to be, as it takes on more of this dreamlike quality, but it's still a fun time overall. It's shot gorgeously, with some stunning direction by Janissa Bravo, plus a lot of its charm resides in Taylor Page and Riley Keough, who offer some quick-witted comedic moments, especially Page as the title character, who narrates the film with some razor-sharp commentary. It's another solid addition to A24's filmography, and it highlights how Janissa Bravo is a director to be on the lookout for. At number 8 is Lamb, a quiet, minimalistic film that uses an incredibly bizarre premise to tackle realistic themes like overcoming grief. It doesn't have quite as much to say on the topic as I would have liked, but it still has something to offer between Noomi Rapaz's performance, some excellent camera work, and the way it plays around with its unique premise, mixing both grounded and supernatural elements. Considering it's distributed by A24, I can already tell you it's going to be an extremely divisive movie, as there are certain elements about it where it asks you to just go with it. But if you can get on board with its premise, it is worth the watch, even if it's not one of A24's masterpieces. At number 7 is Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which is a bigger, bolder, faster version of its predecessor, which some will feel is for better or for worse. Your feelings towards this will be mostly based on how you feel towards the first movie. So if you like that film, you'll get a kick out of this, just like I did. It doubles down on the humor and the action, and it moves at a brisk 90 minutes, not overstaying its welcome, which works to its advantage. Teetering on superhero comedy territory for much of its runtime, if this is your sort of thing, it's bound to put a smile on your face. At number 6 is Dune. Denis Villeneuve's attempt at making one of the most unfilmable novels managed to be a success and totally worth the wait, as it was repeatedly pushed back since last year due to the pandemic. This is a story with so much history and so much lore, and has all these characters that need to be established in a short period of time, and yet it's done in a way that feels completely accessible while not feeling rushed. And while it does have a purposely incomplete feel to it, it still does a great job of piquing your interest as far as what the next big thing is here. And it's also just a gorgeous film to look at, feeling epic and grand in scale, with some stunning fight scenes and beautiful cinematography. It all just pops, and I personally do think that you can still get that feel even if you watched it on HBO Max from home. Based on where things are headed, this is definitely one of the most exciting new franchises to arise, and I gotta say, I am here for it. At number 5 is No Time to Die. The final film with Daniel Craig as James Bond is absolutely bittersweet, giving us for the first time a proper send-off to the lead actor after a history of them just stopping. This wasn't exactly one of my favorite James Bond films, as I did have issues with both its runtime and its pacing, but it was still riveting, as it found a nice way to tie the entire run together with a solid, emotionally charged story, complemented by some stunning action scenes. It's heartfelt, humorous, and action-packed, and it allowed Craig to go out on a high note. At number 4 is Last Night in Soho, which sees Edgar Wright take his distinct visual style and channel it to a straightforward psychological horror movie, in what's one of the biggest changes of pace for him, and it gives us yet another win in his continuously impressive filmography, even if it's not quite one of his absolute best work. Everything from the production design, the performances, the use of music, the tributes to 1960s horror and pop culture, it all works so well together to give us a frequently engaging and unnerving mystery. Its final act doesn't quite hit as hard as the first 2/3, but it's still pretty solid overall, and it proves that this director has so much to offer out of his comfort zone. At number 3 is The French Dispatch, a delightful, very funny tribute to the art of journalism by Wes Anderson that sees him take on his first anthology project. Now, normally anthologies aren't my thing, and one of my only criticisms of the movie is that I wish these 3 segments tied together a little better, but it's still a very entertaining film that's gorgeously shot and also contains a wonderful ensemble cast. Some stories obviously work better than others, and I do think it will appeal more to devoted Wes Anderson fans than anyone else, but it still has a lot to offer, and if you're into his style at all, it'll be hard to resist. At number 2 is The Last Duel, Ridley Scott's medieval epic told in the style of Rashomon, which unfortunately not a whole lot of people saw, with it bombing at the box office despite favorable reviews. And while I can understand why, due to some of its subject matter, I thought the film was done exceptionally well, with it being some of Scott's best recent work, along with The Martian. The film's structure, telling the same events through 3 different points of view, may lead to some issues, such as showing one particularly uncomfortable scene twice, but for the most part, it leads to some excellent pacing, with its 2.5-hour runtime whizzing by, and the duel in question is just superb, with its use of practical effects and solid direction being at gladiator levels of riveting. It's quite unfortunate how this film performed as poorly as it did, as I feel it has plenty to offer. But in first place is Titan, a film that is the very definition of an experience, and I don't say that lightly. By the time this is out, it'll have been a month, so I'm sure plenty of people got to check it out and know what happened, but if you haven't seen it yet, you should not look up any plot details for yourself. Even things that aren't really considered spoilers because of how early on they happen, I feel that's more than enough to know. Because parts of it you just have to see to believe. Though what makes it so captivating is that it takes a premise that could have easily just been a gimmick and spins it to find a lot more human emotion than it lets on. And I really gotta hand it to director Julia Ducournau, who makes it feel so easy to do. It's shocking, bizarre, and features 2 stunning lead performances. This is one of the finest films of the year and my number 1 movie of October. And that's my ranking of October's movies. Only 2 more months left in this year, which is absolutely wild to me. And there are no signs of slowing down. As I said, expect the films I didn't review yet scattered throughout November and December, because I have them written. So with time, there will be videos for them. Truthfully, I just can't wait till the beginning of the year, as I'll have a schedule mapped out, things will be mostly normalized as far as work goes, and we'll hopefully avoid this situation again this time next year. But until then, let me know, what were your favorite movies in October? Did you agree with this list at all? Did you disagree with it? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it. And for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.